I'm not passing gas, but I have a pretty good time,
sure. Would you give us another one? Where is he? Where's that man?
You guys were, but there were a lot of brawls. There are always a lot of brawls happening with the Kinks. Can you give me an idea of what were the fights about? The infamous fights that we always hear about.
No, I think it's overblown. You know, it's creative warfare. It's a difference. You know, it wasn't violence for sheer violence sake. It was more over, you know, chords being played wrong. You know, when we started out, it may seem strange, but all I heard for 2 years was the sound of girls screaming. That's when I wasn't on stage. But for the most part, they're not very fast, are they? But no, for the most part, that's all I could hear. So we didn't really know how each other sounded. We just went up there and just sang, and that was it. And I think it was a frustration of not being able to hear what you were doing. But obviously, you needed that reaction.
But when you were they intense fights, or it wasn't ever anything?
Well, I didn't really fight, because my brother was in the band, and he lived with our drummer, Mick, and it's all sort of in my sort of book that's coming up, but I'll try to remember it. It's, they had a house together. It was like a raver's house. They had lots of girls there and men there, whatever. And they got fed up with one another. So the pressures of doing these shows and being locked away, you know, because we couldn't really go out right at the beginning on the street, they wouldn't allow us out. They were confined in this situation together. I think it just exploded. And one night, Mick and Dave had a fight on stage, I think somewhere like Cardiff, which is in Wales, and Mick hit Dave with the cymbal, which was about this big, and tried to slice his head off.
He tried to slice his head off with a cymbal?
Well, I think it was actually he tried to scalp him. I don't think he tried to cut his head off totally. No, it ended up that way. No, it's not. I don't recommend it. Don't try it at home.
Don't try it at home. That's a good thing to point out to the audience. You guys, do you open for the Beatles at one point? There's been much written about your feelings towards John Lennon. Was he somebody you liked or were indifferent to?
I thought he was the most wonderful songwriter. He was quite horrible to us when we first met him. But then, you know, it's like any sort of older schoolboy meeting someone when you start at school, you always get bullied. And it was a bit of that professional bullying that went on, but it was in good spirit.
Well, do you remember the particular incidents?
Yeah, I mean, our first gig, we were opening for them, and we were very nervous and sort of excited about being on with the Beatles, and John walked up and just said, what did he say? We couldn't get a sound check, and he just walked over to me and said, you know, you've got dandruff on your jacket. And he sort of got my jacket. I was really f***ing myself. Can you say that?
Sure.
I was really... sorry, I nearly swore then. I'm sorry about that. I was... what's the word? Give me a word instead of shit.
You were...
quivering, quaking,
yeah,
quaking.
Quivering,
I was
quaking.
quivering and
I'll get
quaking.
you a thesaurus at the commercial break.
Yeah.
We'll come up with something.
No, but it was just a very intense situation. It's a long story, and I don't want to go into it, but he didn't make us feel comfortable on stage. Yeah. But, you know, the thing about that is, with all the sort of hard-edged side to him, I think it was that hardness that made him write such great songs.
Right.
Otherwise, you know, and you had the contrast, somebody like Paul McCartney, who's a very sort of genial person.
Right.
And so John was the other side.
You certainly admired him for his
guy.
For
they
his
were
work.
absolutely brilliant.
This is your new book, X-Ray. I want to talk to you about it, and some of the stories are amazing in this book. We must do a quick break. We'll be back with Ray Davies and much more after this.
Holiday greetings from Budweiser.
We're back with a few more people, Ray Davies and his book. This is X-Ray. It's your unauthorized autobiography. Why now? Why write an autobiography?
Well, that.
Oh, geez, here we go.
What have I done?
I set it over here. You wanted to keep it here?
Listen.
You can put it wherever you want. Where do you want to put it? Right here?
They came up to me. I think what they do, there's a sort of a lot of publishers that hang around these sort of hospitals, and they wait to see when somebody's going to die. And then when they think that's imminent, they run up to you with a contract and say, would you like to do your autobiography?
Ambulance chasers, lawyers and publishers following you around, right?
Anyway, like I was living in Ireland, at the south of Ireland at the time, and this nice guy flew over and said, would you like to write an autobiography? And I said, no. So he left. And I phoned him up 2 weeks later and said, but if I can write it the way I want to do it, in other words, get inside my character, because it's a strange band, the Kinks. You know, you've got all these stories that you have that some are true and some are just myth. You know, it's legend. So I thought it'd be nice to have a device of me being me when I was 19 years old, when I started in that black and white footage, singing in the Kinks, and interviewing me in the future when I'm 70 years old. And the 70-year-old me doesn't like the book being written, so that's why it's called the unauthorized autobiography.
Do a lot of the stories that happen in the rock world, particularly with you guys, sort of take on a life of their own and grow to huge, eminent proportions?
It's like any rumor, you know, and they say, it's like the farting story, the man sort of farted. We know, we were here when it happened. I mean,
I wasn't going to cite that particular example, but all right.
No, everything gets elaborated.
That's true. 5 years from now, so the whole audience blew out of the place. It was unbelievable.
I know. That's how these things spread. But they have. For the most part, our career has been quite elaborated.
And did you find that it helped you in any way find out things about yourself?
I didn't go into therapy because of it. No.
Yeah.
It was very therapeutic writing it, I must say. When I'd written it, I looked at it and thought, was that me? Oh. You know, it's, sorry, I nearly touched her hand there.
Yeah, that was getting a little strange. But,
yeah.
In the book, you do mention an incident at the hospital. You show up at the hospital?
Oh, yeah, I did a concert in London at the White City. It's a running stadium, football stadium, soccer stadium. And somebody spiked my drink with something before I went on, and I was singing, she walked up to me and she asked me, and I sort of started going to rigor mortis like that and fell against my amp. And they picked me up and I got through the rest of it. I was like El Cid at the end, you know, he was dead on the horse. And as long as I finished the set, so we got paid. And the girl with me...
Were you scared? Did you think...
I was terrified.
Yeah.
I wondered didn't know what it was, obviously. It's quite a hard thing to happen. So I went to the hospital and I was wearing bow ties and had a lot longer hair those days, like that. I ran in looking like a clown and I said, excuse me, I'm Ray Davies and I'm dying. So it was quite extreme, to be sure.
You also mentioned at one point considering
in fact,
suicide.
I think we're dying again right now.
You also at one point say that you considered suicide.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also, I mean, if you have to play with this band for 30 years, you'd try and commit suicide.
Hey, you tried doing this show for 2 years, you'd think about it too. Yeah. But how serious?
I think, suicide is a bit extreme. Again, it's not a cry for help. It's more combined with a lifestyle, which is very extreme. And the whole ethic of getting people on stage and performing, whatever the cost, because people in show business, in what we do, I suppose, aren't allowed to be ill. Yeah. You know, if you work for a stockbroker or a banker, say, oh, I've got a cold, I'll stay at home, usually. But with rock and roll, you've got to have a temperature. I remember I broke my knee once, kneecap. That's a very short story. I was in the Midwest
I'll tell you
somewhere.
what, save that story. I got to do a break. We'll be back with Ray Davies' broken knee story after this. In the wee small hours, talking with, from the Kinks, Mr. Ray Davies, who's about to tell us, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself for the story. You've heard about it, you've talked about it, the knee story.
The broken knee story, I've forgotten it. Let's move on. But it wasn't very interesting anyway. It's been really a big pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah.
It really has.
Yeah, thank you. But we have 1 minute and 30 seconds, so can you give me that knee story?
Well, there's not much to it, really. I broke my knee and it was sticking out there. I was wearing a pink suit and I slipped on the stage.
No, we'll just stop right there.
What's that?
Why are you wearing a pink suit, Ray?
Because I wrote Lola.
Okay.
Anyway, I slipped on the stage and it was disjointed and up my back like that, and they carried me off. And the only thing I could think of when the medics came is, don't cut the suit.
Right.
And so then I passed out, and the next day I was in bed with this thing on my leg like this. And my manager came in and he said, you know, it doesn't look that bad to me. Which means I have to go on stage that night, and I did.
With a broken knee?
Yeah.
Who is this Putz?
He's a very nice man.
It's not that big guy I saw back there, is he?
Far from this studio.
Oh, okay.
No, it's an extreme story. Again, that's developed over the years. Yeah. But it's the way you have to
Makes
be
for a great autobiography, though.
Yeah, but it's not in this book.
Oh, we have to do one last break. We'll be back with Ray after this. Don't go away. Say goodnight.